is good people? You are now listening to another episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. I am your humble narrator, Danny Foxworth, and thank you all so much for tuning in to the 100th episode with my parents. That was a lot of fun. It's always a ball chopping it up with them and learning new things and whatnot, and kept the 45th birthday festivities going. After I finished recording with them, I changed clothes and went out to Folly Beach, hung out there for a few hours, and then after I left there, changed clothes again and went out to Woo Wednesday like I normally do every month. And that was a lot of fun. It's been a while since I seen that many black folks in one setting. And man, I felt right at home. Man, so shout out to Dave for putting Woo Wednesday together, man. Salute to you. I always look forward to those every month. And to cap the week off, my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder won the NBA championship. And man, if you would have asked me, would they win the championship? I'd have laughed in your face. I had the pleasure of being on the good brother Brandon Silver's podcast. Check out Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silver's if you haven't. And we did a season preview episode for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he asked me, where do you see them going? Like, what are your predictions? And I said Western Conference Finals. This was after they lost in the second round last season. I think they'd take another step, but I didn't think they would take that big of a leap the following year. And lo and behold, they did it. They did it. They swept the Grizzlies in the first round. Then the second round, they faced the Nuggets. So I'm like, all right, this is going to be their biggest test because the front court presence is what eventually led to their downfall last season against the Mavericks with Luka and PJ Washington. Now you got to face arguably the best player on the planet with Nikola Jokic, and they had problems in their front court. And so I was like, all right, let's see how this goes. And OKC lost in a buzzer beater in the first game, and then blowout second game, and then they just back and forth. And they showed a lot of heart, and they showed a lot of mettle during that Nugget series. And I was like, oh, okay, they're not just going to back down easily, despite them being the youngest team in the league. It was really cool to see them develop that toughness and that moxie and that heart during that playoff series. That really showed me a lot from that squad. And the series ended up going 7 games, and I was nervous as all outdoors. And lo and behold, they flat out blew them out at home in game 7. I was like, all right, if they can beat the Nuggets, they might have a chance of winning the title, because the Nuggets were, I'd have to say they were the team to beat out of the West, because they had the veterans, they had the championship pedigree already, winning the title in 2023. And if the Thunder can knock them out, all bets are off. They might make it farther than the Western Conference Finals than like what I predicted. And then Western Conference Finals, they ended up beating the Minnesota Timberwolves in 5 games. I was like, wow, they made light work of them. And they made light work of them in a way that they basically had to wait a whole week for their Eastern Conference opponent, which ended up being the Indiana Pacers. And at this point, I was feeling myself. I'm like, yeah, they're going to be too much for the Pacers. Shout out to the homies G and Mike. They were asking me in the group chat what were your predictions for the NBA Finals. And I said Thunder in 5, and the Pacers made a liar out of me. I'm so happy this NBA Final Series is over. I'm sick of the Pacers. They just don't quit. It's crazy. They won game 1 in almost the same exact fashion that the Nuggets won game 1 in the second round. Aaron Gordon won the game 1 for the Nuggets with a buzzer beater, and then Halliburton wins game 1 on a buzzer beater for the Pacers in the NBA Finals. I'm like, boy, this is how it's going to go. And I was nervous. This entire series, I was nervous. And what's wild is the way the games ended up in all 7, they played out literally the exact same way in the NBA Finals against the Pacers. I mean, down to a T. It's crazy. But yeah, fast forward to game 7. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Pacers got off to a hot start. Tyrese Halliburton hit 3 threes, and I wasn't watching the game in the first half. And Halliburton got hot. He hit those 3 threes, and then I'm thumbing through my timeline, and all of a sudden I just see, oh no, Halliburton. Prayers up for Halliburton. I was like, my worst fear been confirmed? You know, because he's playing with a calf strain, and when you play with a calf strain, you playing with fire. It happened to Kevin Durant in the finals in 2019. He played with a calf strain and ended up tearing his Achilles against the Raptors in the finals. And lo and behold, same thing happened to Halliburton. And I saw the clip. I was like, oh, man. And hated to see that. I ain't going to lie to you. I hated to see that. But even in the back of my mind, with Halliburton out, I'm like, you still cannot count the Pacers out. And then fast forward to the fourth quarter, OKC was up 94-79. And I still wasn't completely confident in them pulling this off. And then as soon as I blink, the Pacers going on an 11-1 run. That damn TJ McConnell. I was like, man, I'm so sick of these Pacers. Why can't they just lay down? And they cut the lead to 10, but the Thunder opened the lead back up and eventually ended up winning the NBA title. So again, shout out to my beloved Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder up all day, every day till the sun get cold. And it's been a real cool season of championships for your boy. With the exception of the Las Vegas Aces, I've been a fan of all the pro sports teams that I root for since the early to mid 90s. And when the River Dogs started their back-to-back Carolina League championships in 2021, 22, and 23, that was the start of something good, as Outcast would say. And then after that, Aces went back-to-back in 22 and 23. Then the Rangers won the World Series in 23. And now the Thunder are the 2025 World Champions. So Carolina Panthers, I just need you to win a Super Bowl and my championship cipher will be complete. So again, shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder for bringing the title home to Bricktown. And also this past weekend, I took a day trip up to Colombia to chop it up with a fellow that I've been a fan of and I've admired from afar. Afrofuturist / artist / creative. My guy Cedric Umojade. And we've been following each other on IG and Facebook for a hot minute, and our schedules were just never able to line up. And he actually happened to have some free time this past Saturday, so we met up at a Piece of Soul vegan cafe. If you haven't been there, you're in the Columbia area, I highly recommend it. Their food is incredible. I had a Nashville hot chicken sandwich, and you wouldn't know that it wasn't chicken. It was just out of sight. And so we sat outside. I got to meet his daughter. That was really cool, and she was really cool, and we just picked each other's brains. I picked his brain about his art disciplines and his influences and his inspirations, and he picked my brain about podcasting. It was a real dope conversation. He's going to be on the pod pretty soon too. So shout out to Cedric. Then after I left there, I've stopped at the Columbia Museum of Art. Just to let you in on a little secret, if you are a South Carolina citizen, if you can provide your state ID or just provide your zip code, it's free admission. Look, free is my favorite flavor, and it's always a good time at the art museum. Just seeing new installations and just getting immersed in the visual aspect of the arts, and it's a good way to stay cool and just to taking in all the beautiful art that they had on display. And then after I left there, I made my rounds at Goodwill and actually found this hat in the 50 cent bin. Actually, I got two hats from Goodwill for a total of $1. Fun times. And the bottom fell out on 2 notch. I wasn't mad about that because it took the temperature down significantly because it was oppressively hot on Saturday. Then after I left Goodwill, I figured I'd make my way back down 26 back home. But before I left, I had to get my slushie from QuikTrip. Again, QuikTrip, can y'all please stop playing around and get some locations in the Charleston area? Because, listen, y'all got a hold on me, especially with the slushies. And unfortunately, I went to about 3 or 4 different QuikTrips thinking I was going to get a slushie, and I could not because apparently they're in the process of redesigning the slushie machine. So all the slushie machines were down. I was like, man, dang it. So I walked away empty-handed. And then my last stop, I noticed this on the way up to Columbia, getting off my exit. There was a farmer's market right outside of Columbia in a town called KC. Cayce is how it's spelled, not KC like Kansas City. And they had a farmer's market, and I had an itch for some fried okra. I was like, wait a minute. Oh, they're open until 7? Let me pull in and see what they got. And they had a lot of locally grown fresh produce. and they had peaches, they had beets, they had corn, cucumbers, apples, and then I looked and I was like, oh, they got okra. It was like $3.99 a pound. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting me some okra, and that was locally grown as well. Uh, Support your local farmers market. When you bite into a farmers market produce as opposed to the grocery store produce, you can tell a very distinct difference. And got my okra and headed back down 26. And as soon as I got back in the house from the hour and a half drive, first thing I did was go in the kitchen and cut up that okra and pan fry it. And magnifique, magnifique. And yeah, that was a good day. It's been a good last couple of weeks for you, boy. And I'm enjoying the ride. That's just a little catching up of what I've been up to in between episodes. And lastly, I just want to say as a PSA, no matter what your age is, no matter how old you are, it is never, ever, ever, ever too late to hit the reset button. If you're not feeling the situation that's going on in your life and you want to make a change, you can hit the reset button. As long as you got breath running through your nostrils, you can always make a change. And that's going to do it for this episode of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast. Like, download, subscribe. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can find me at Danny Foxworth 843. There you can find videos for every episode of this podcast, as well as my baseball podcast, At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, my candle podcast, A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth, and Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, which a new episode will be here in about a couple of weeks. And again, thank you for your eyes. Thank you for your ears. Thank you for 100 episodes. Thank you for 300 YouTube subscribers. And until next time, y'all be good. Peace.